news, radio, public relations, and social media management. Majority of her time has been devoted to digital communications, including website and social media management. Christy's love of social media is matched by her love of giving back. She serves on the board of directors for Houston Pet Set and Houston Press Club. She also volunteers her time at various organizations across Houston, and she is the host of the newly created and very trendy Chat Snap.
Yay!
Hi. Oh, there you can hear me. Hi. I'm Christy Gillentine, and I am super excited to be here. I'm also super nervous. Trying to play it cool, not sure if that's working. My hands should stop shaking at some point in the next hour, I hope. I want to say thank you to the conference organizers for having me here and for having this event, because it's really cool. I attended last year. Any of y'all here last year too? Yeah, fun times. But really excited to be back again this year and be involved with it. I'm going to start with the question that I get asked most these days, and that is, what happened to your foot? I broke my foot because of social media. I was down in Galveston, just got down there to spend the weekend at a canal house, had been at this canal house for all of 5 minutes, recorded a snap, palm tree, temperature, beautiful, cool, crisp March morning, and was walking out toward the water and missed a step. And instead of posting my snap, I snapped my foot. So thanks, Snapchat. But the thing I love the most betrayed me. So a little bit more about me. My background is in news. I basically grew up in a newsroom because my grandma was a reporter and editor for, she's still a columnist, but did it for years and years, decades and decades. And I started working as a newspaper reporter when I was 17, and did that through the end of high school and college, did that for years. I moved into broadcast, working as an assignment editor, and then on the website, digital social for TV newsrooms, radio news, and now working in public relations. My world still revolves heavily around news. But now instead of reporting the news, I'm helping to create it. I have really exciting news for all of you here today. You are also creators of news. There has never been a more exciting time in storytelling than right now, because there's never been so many tools with which to tell stories. You don't have to have coverage from journalists to drive your message to the public. Social media gives you immediate direct contact with your audience. So you can drive your message with every Instagram post or YouTube video, tweet, etc., etc., etc. So if you think of your presence on social media as an unbridled opportunity to tell your story to anyone and everyone in the world, it's really exciting, and you want to take advantage of that, right? So, social media, we talk about strategy for platforms and programs. What I'd like to talk about today is developing a newsmaker strategy, a bold movement to make your own news and tell your own story across social media platforms. It's about showing the public how you're different, who you are, what you're doing differently, and why you're doing it that way. For your newsmaker strategy, you want to follow industry news. So you monitor media and social media to listen to and participate in conversations happening around you and your industry. For example, one of the things that I follow regularly is the future of news. It's actually on Mobile Chat where they had recently talking about that, how technology is changing the way that we produce and consume news. So I have multiple Twitter lists, TweetDeck columns, Google alerts to stay on top of those trends and what's changing. And I check those every morning while my coffee is brewing. So if you make that part of your morning routine and find those industry keywords and things to search for, it's good to follow those, because you never know when you'll have an opportunity to step in and be a part of that conversation and maybe even establish yourself or your brand as a thought leader in that area. For your newsmaker strategy, you also develop an overriding plan for regularly communicating the big picture and major initiatives. So the smaller stories are absolutely important too, but you don't want to let your big picture, what you're all about, get lost. And your big picture is what gets you to your why. Why are you sharing what you're sharing? Why should people care about what you're sharing? And why do you care that they care? You also go on the offensive with your content, creating just prodigious amounts of good news and content to share on social media. You use social media to provide just a steady flow of value to the public, anticipating what your community wants and needs, and you don't make them go search for it. You be their go-to source of value, of information. And then you're bold in this newsmaker strategy. You don't tiptoe around issues. When an issue comes up, you face it head on. The thing is, it's noisy out there for everyone. Our communities are really hungry for clear, strong communications. They want their voices heard. They want to be part of a story. They want a two-way relationship. They want authenticity, a buzzword, but they want it. And they want to be able to trust us. So do you need to be on social media, on every social media network in order to make this happen? And the answer is, of course, no. Absolutely not. You can be if you want to be, but you don't have to be. You can identify the platforms that are the best for your brand and make sure you're investing your time wisely. So what do? Which social media networks do we leverage for our brands? How do we know where to focus our efforts? It seems like everybody has an opinion, everybody has strategies, everyone has fears and favorites, but when you're trying to answer that question, where should I be? You have to just take a step back and go back to the basics for a minute, take a deep breath, turn down the volume, and the first step is going to be identifying your audience. Knowing who they are enables us to find out, it enables us to engage with them in ways that they really care about. So the types of audiences that you may be looking for include current and potential clients or customers, their associates, could be affiliate businesses, maybe it's suppliers, or perhaps it's the media, because traditional or news coverage is also good. So reporters, bloggers, editors, industry thought leaders are also good to target for your audience. And if you're struggling to identify your audience, look at what your competition is doing. Look at what your strategic partners are doing. Who are they targeting? What's working? What isn't? And who are they maybe leaving out? In the past, we didn't have to think too deeply about who our audience is. We just broadcast it out there, kind of cast a net, throw it up against the wall, see what sticks. But these days, you really have to. You have to understand what their lives are really like, and what types of messages will resonate with them, and where they're going to look for that content. So, for example, is your audience this 20-year-old college student who goes to class during the day and then watches sports at night? Or is it the stay-at-home mom who gets her kids ready for school every morning and then runs errands during the day? Because that college student might go to Instagram in between classes, and that mom might go to Pinterest in the evenings to figure out what to cook for dinner. So after identifying your audience, you need to find them. Figure out which social media platforms your people use and how they use them. Knowing where they are and what kind of content works best for them will help you capture their attention. So one way to learn this is to just ask them. So if you have customers in a store or patients in a clinic or any people in a place, grab them and do a poll. Ask them where they already follow you, and where they'd like to see you. And even if you don't have that ability, you can still find them with a little bit of research. So you're going to ask yourself, who are you trying to reach? Where do they hang out on social? And what kinds of content do they want based on where they are? There's the old adage that birds of a feather flock together, and this is true on social media too. Don't often think about this because there's so many personalities on any given social network, but when we're taking a step back and we're looking at the big picture, if you look at the core demographics and use cases, birds of a feather really do flock to certain social media platforms. So we're going to look at just a few of them, and this isn't all of them by any means, but I want to go again back to the basics and get a big picture, at a glance view of who's there, how it's being used, and I want you to keep in mind, are my people in this big picture? So we'll start with Facebook. An amazing 72% of online American adults use Facebook. That's like unprecedented. It's used by 64% of Americans age 12 and up. Facebook is especially popular among women. 77% of them are users. And it is the most used social media site and app out there among all ages. This includes 48% of online people who are ages 65 and older, like my grandma, who's completely addicted. Facebook is a place to connect with people and brands who you know and love. It's also the new phone book, if you will. So having a presence on Facebook is almost vital as proof of existence. People are sharing and creating memories with family and friends. They're consuming news and learning new skills, supporting causes. They're planning birthday parties and going to community events, and it's basically life happens on Facebook, all of it. And with Facebook, it's really just too big to ignore. So simply said, should you have a Facebook presence? Probably. Moving on to Twitter, this is another one. The user base is aging, but it remains more popular with the younger adults. 30% of those under 50 are on Twitter, compared with 11% of online adults over 50. My grandma's not on Twitter, thank God. The couple of interesting stats, 3 in 10 online urban residents are using Twitter, compared to just 21% suburban and 15% rural. So you're more likely to be on Twitter if you live in Houston proper than if you live in Sugar Land or Santa Fe. And Twitter's a place to share and consume information on topics that you care about. The conversations happen in real time around those topics. And the people that you connect with are likely to also care about those same topics. Twitter users are 3 times as likely as Facebook users to follow a brand, with 49% of them following brands and companies. And they're not just following them, they're interacting with them. So they're seeking information, asking questions, getting customer support. It's also really easy to search, join, and start conversations on Twitter. And to search for people too. So if you're looking for technology consultants in St. Louis, Missouri, you can find them just with a search. And if you want to join a conversation around an event, you can join it and be a part of it from anywhere in the world just by using a hashtag, SFAHOU. And if you want to start a conversation on Twitter and bring your people to you, it's as simple as just doing that, like I've done with my Twitter chat, ChatSnap. Just in March, with the encouragement of Madeline Sklar and Alicia Henley, I launched ChatSnap, and now it's this vibrant, growing community of like-minded people who come together to learn from one another and make friends. Instagram is especially popular with young adults. 55% of people ages 18 to 29 are using it. It's also especially popular with Black and Latino users. So 47% of African Americans online are on Instagram, and then 38% of Hispanics online are on Instagram compared to 21% of online Caucasians. There are also more women on Instagram, 31% to 24% men, and 75% of all Instagram users are actually outside the US. So what's Instagram? How are people using it? It's a place to share compelling photos and videos, of course. Whopping 68% of brands are interacting with brands regularly on Instagram. And it has 58 times more engagement per follower than Facebook. So if your story is a visual one, and you know how to search and use the right hashtags, you can really reach an engaged audience there. LinkedIn, 1 in every 3 professionals in the world is on LinkedIn. And it's primarily used by working age adults and college grads. The demographic also leans toward those with higher incomes. Nearly half, 49% of key decision makers in the world are on LinkedIn. And the 30 to 49-year-old user base is actually the largest, which makes LinkedIn the only major social media network that has more 30 to 49-year-olds than it does 18 to 29-year-olds. Military and veteran members are also among the most active. They have 2 million self-identified military and veteran members, and they, on average, have 14% more connections and 55% more group views than non-veteran members. So what's LinkedIn? What are they doing there? It is, perhaps more so than any other social network, the purpose of LinkedIn is really clear. It's a place to promote your professional experiences and connect with professionally like-minded people. It's much more white-collar-esque. When you're on LinkedIn, you're basically still at work. The conversations are much more professional and more related. People are finding and posting jobs, but they're also sharing industry-related news and updates and their expertise. Pinterest, moving right along here. Of course, Pinterest is female-dominated. 44% of all women online are on Pinterest. And that's compared to just 16% of men. But men are there, and now 1 in 3 new signups on Pinterest are men. And almost half of the users there are in the 25 to 44-year-old age range. Pinterest is a place to share your passions and interests, bookmark information that you want to see later. They're finding and sharing everything from recipes and crafts, designs, tips, hacks. The range of content there is really broad. And pins on Pinterest also have great viral potential. Get this, 1.4% of tweets are retweeted, but the average pin is repinned 11 times. So 80% of the pins you see are repins. And Snapchat is my personal favorite platform. It still fits the stereotype that the users are mostly digital natives and millennials, but older people are there, and more older people and brands are hopping on board. More than half of new users signing up are over the age of 25, and one of the fastest growing age groups is 35 and up. So this is definitely not a kids app. At 70%, there are also more females on Snapchat. Another fun stat, Snapchat's vertical videos, which a lot of people like to complain about, are actually viewed in their entirety 9 times more than horizontal videos. So it's the second most used social network after Facebook. What are people doing there? Not just sexting, surprisingly. Snapchat's a place to tell stories. It's a place to deepen relationships with existing connections. There's a need for creativity, brevity, vulnerability, spontaneity, perhaps more so than any other social network. And then, of course, also a need for two-way engagement. It is more difficult to get followers on Snapchat simply because of the lack of a search function. So people can't search for you on Snapchat. They have to either have your Snap code or know your exact username. But that just means it's more important to cross-promote and use third-party directories like Ghost Codes. Your reach may be much smaller because of that than you might have on other social networks, but typically your engagement is going to be much higher on Snapchat. Next, we're going to talk about, oh, and also, even if you're not on Snapchat, you can still be on Snapchat, kind of like Social Media Day Houston has 2 geo filters. So that's another great way for brands to have a Snapchat presence without actively creating content, is to create those on-demand geo filters. Next, drive your message by creating a compelling and dynamic experience natively across all your platforms. When I say natively, I just mean not having Facebook automatically populated by Instagram or Twitter from YouTube, that kind of stuff. The native content is content that's posted by, uploaded through that platform. If content is king, and we all know it is, distribution is queen. Because it's one thing to have a solid message, but knowing where and how to distribute it is vital. It requires an understanding of how each platform works, who's there, like we just reviewed. But it also requires understanding the kinds of content that you can produce there and being able to customize it to each network. So what posts work better than others, and how can you make your posts more compelling? These are the kinds of things I want to discuss here briefly. We're just going to look at 3 of them. Facebook images for more compelling photos that evoke more response go for action shots, or candid photos too, because post photos are never as, I don't think they're ever as good as action shots. It's more exciting to see people doing stuff. Images we use can, and you can see that here, like people, so this is at Houston Food Bank. People smiling for the camera, kind of boring. People doing stuff, kind of exciting. You can also use graphics and infographics and screenshots, but basically any image you can use is going to have 2.3 times more engagement than your typical text-only post. And remember that your community isn't going to share your images just because you put them out there. You have to make that a key goal of your content too, define or create images that they're going to want to see in their own audience. Videos on Facebook. The average video post gets 135% greater organic reach than Facebook posts. Videos just bring people into the story a little better. What ABC 13 news anchor Art Rascone did with this one is a nice example. With video, you were able to watch Houston news legend Dave Ward open his notification from Guinness that he'd been accepted as he's now the world record holder for the longest running news anchor at a single TV station. And so a photo of that would have been cool too, but with the video, you were able to watch him open that, read the notification, and see his reaction. So it just makes it a lot more exciting. Facebook has upwards of 8 billion video views a day, but it's important to note that a large majority of these are happening in silence. 85% of Facebook videos are viewed without sound. So for a more compelling video experience for your community, make your messages readable within those videos. Like you see here, this ABC 13 video was text over music, and then Gary Vee likes to do subtitles, sometimes with curse words. Facebook Live. So live video is the future of social media. The future is now, and Facebook is changing the game. Facebook gives greater prominence to live video and newsfeed, so you can go live anytime from anywhere, and your community will be notified so they can join you and experience things in real time. Like when Madeline live streamed her recent appearance on a radio show. And another thing that's cool about Facebook Live is the people who are coming in to watch are people who already know you. Also, people spend 3 times longer watching live video versus pre-recorded video. People also comment over 10 times more on live videos because they're commenting to you in real time. You can see their comments, you can respond. And that's also exciting for your audience. On Twitter, images again, those action shots are really good. The candid photos are going to evoke more response. You can also use graphics and infographics. Those do well on Twitter. But adding any kind of image generates 150%, can generate 150% more retweets than plain text updates. And GIFs, I don't really know what it is, but people love GIFs. They're just fun. Twitter lets you use GIFs via their GIF search, so you can search for them right within Twitter, or you can create your own GIFs pretty easily using apps. I use Voto, V-H-O-T-O, is awesome. So for Chat Snap and Twitter Chat, I use GIFs to announce each upcoming question. So at every 1 minute before the next question, I put a GIF out there, just to make it fun. And usually for those, I either use the Twitter search or I'll get them off of Giphy.com and Giphy.com. But a lot of times for clients, I make my own. Like this one on the right is kids stacking cards at a science and engineering school event. And so the GIF was the cards falling. I didn't want to make any of these move because I didn't know how the system was going to work. So Twitter video tweets are up by 50% just since the beginning of this year. So just in the past 6 or 7 months, they're up by over 50%. 90% of those video views happen on mobile. And native Twitter videos, so videos uploaded directly through Twitter rather than shared from YouTube, for example, drive more engagement. And we're talking almost 2 times the favorites, 2.5 times more replies, and 2.8 times more retweets. So video uploaded straight through Twitter is the way to go. And live video on Twitter, Twitter Live, as some people like to call Periscope now. You can actually call up Periscope from within the Twitter app, as Madeline just mentioned. That could boost, it's expected to boost Periscope views to compete with Facebook Live. And Madeline mentioned being able to pull that up from right within the Twitter app, and that's what's circled there. I actually made that graphic in Snapchat. Images on Instagram. So, of course, you want eye-catching images, but an interesting stat that I found is that pictures with human faces are 38% more likely to receive likes than photos with no faces. There's also 32% more likely to get comments than people with no faces. So I don't know if this, I know that it's human faces, and I haven't done the research to figure out if it's also animal faces, because most of my posts are my dogs and my cats. But we'll see. Instagram videos generate 66% higher engagement for brands than photos do. And videos are now up to 1 minute long. They show you the number of views for your video, so videos are great on Instagram too. And this screenshot from the Children's Museum of Houston is good because it shows how they mix up their content. It's not all photos, it's not all videos. That's what I mean by dynamic content, keeping it exciting by always changing, always mixing it up. Because remember, people are flicking through Instagram with their thumbs. And you want to make sure you have images that are going to grab their attention and make them go back and see what that was. And that's the case on all of these platforms. People are scrolling. You should see my grandma on Facebook. And the way she just viciously scrolls through, and that's what people are doing. Sometimes she even accidentally gets shared on things that are maybe a little inappropriate. People are all scrolling, they're tapping through Snapchat stories, so compelling content makes them want to stop and go back. And when we get their attention, we want to make sure that they're glad that we got it. So mixing up that type of that content can, having some variety is good for that. So I won't make you raise your hand if this is you, but I work with a lot of clients who are really good at one social media network, and the rest are afterthoughts, or they're done out of obligation, or they're just completely ignored. So if that is you, know that you are not alone. So repurposing content is a huge goal for the clients that I work with. So how can I be in all of these places and still make each experience seem special? Because it's important to remember that all of these social networks have their own audience that consume information in their own unique way. So instead of copying and pasting from one site to the next, which is especially easy if you're really good at one and not so good at the other one, it's distribute content natively from the niche network, like I said earlier. And there are ways that you can repurpose your content to do this and look fresh and don't take up a ton of time. One way is Snapchat. Snapchat stories get knocked a lot because they expire after 24 hours. One of the biggest complaints I get is you spend so much time creating these stories and then they just disappear. But they only disappear if you let them. So Snapchat stories are my #1 hack for quick and easy content repurposing that doesn't look like content repurposing. As you may know, you can download your Snapchat story as a video and save it anytime, and it's going to string all your snaps together into one long video. So that's good to upload to YouTube. You can also save those individual snaps before or after they've been edited and posted, and use those elsewhere, Instagram, Tumblr, Vine, wherever you want. That's why I love using Snapchat as like a home base on social media, especially for events when you're crunched on time, because an image taken on Snapchat will look and feel completely different when you crop it, slap a filter on it, and slap it on Instagram like this middle here. And a video turned into a GIF and then tweeted doesn't look like a Snapchat video, unless you have a puppy face, and then people will know. This Facebook post on the bottom left was actually a video I recorded from Snapchat that didn't post it to my story. It was horizontal. I just saved it to my camera roll and was able to upload that to Facebook. And then, of course, there's the entire story on YouTube. So you can control how Snapchatty your content feels. So if you're trying to promote your Snapchat account, this is a great way to do it because you can push them to that account to see more. But if it also doesn't have to. If you don't want it to look like you're repurposing content, you don't have to make it look like you're repurposing content. Beyond repurposing Snapchat, there are many ways to make your content work harder for you. You can turn a live video into a podcast, into a blog, or the reverse of that. You can turn a blog into an infographic and use that, split the information into several Facebook posts. You can then take those Facebook posts and split them up into several tweets. You can even take Twitter content and repurpose it on Twitter. Wall Street Journal does a really good job with this every day. They're posting, this is all one story, but they used different messaging and different visual elements. So with this, they can potentially reach 3 different audiences with one message, and they're doing these at different times throughout the day. A couple other ways to diversify your content, make it more dynamic, is through curation and user-generated content. So curation, writing and distributing your own content goes a long way, but if you don't have a ton of that content, maybe you're a small team, don't have the time to produce it, sharing good content that isn't yours is good too, because that just helps build trust in your brand, and it shows that you're on top of what's happening in your industry. So look at what respected influencers are doing and sharing, putting out there that relates to you and your area of expertise, and then find out what of this can I share and what can I then add to it. And then the UGC, sharing submitted content, is great for community building. So you can ask your community to submit photos and videos. You can ask them for their input and opinions, questions, and then share that. On a personal note, I've done a lot of this on Snapchat. It's one of my favorite style of stories to do. When I broke my foot, I missed a step and I broke it, and that was a really boring story. And so I had my Snapchat folks send me their crazy tall tales for how I broke my foot. And people loved it. One of them was I was chasing a purse snatcher who was a parkour expert, and I broke it out parkouring him. Another one was I kicked Donald Trump in the head and my foot got caught in his hair. So that was a lot of fun. And then I've also done it asking people what they want to see from news organizations on Snapchat. I was able to turn that into a Snapchat story and then use it in a Snapchat training I did with a news organization. I've also done having people send in their biggest Snapchat pet peeves and sharing those. And I had people submit questions for my 100-year-old great-grandmother, and we did a Snapchat Ask Nanny Anything, and she answered questions from all over the world. So you can do that with the people within your organization, you can do that for yourself, you can do that with affiliates, people that you're working with, and it's a great way to, and of course it doesn't have to be on Snapchat either. You collect could be in the form of, shared in the form of a Facebook photo gallery, you can do a Twitter chat, a YouTube video, anything. And you can also ask on, say, Snapchat for content that you'll share on Facebook, or ask on Twitter for content that you'll share on Instagram. And what this does is encourage cross-platform connection. And that's the kind of two-way engagement that helps turn your audience into a community and what makes your people part of your story. So we've gone over a small fraction of social media networks. There are a lot of them out there, and there are shiny new apps coming out all the time. So many options, and our attention being pulled in so many different directions. It's important to define your priorities and discern whether a platform is worth your time and resources. So if you're on any number of social networks, now is as good a time as any to look inward. And I'm talking about an internal social media analysis. I promise it's not as boring as it sounds. Basically, it's just a matter of examining where you're spending the most time, where you're getting the best and worst engagement, and seeing if there's a disconnect. Okay, so story time. I have a client who came to me completely stressed out by social media with his business. It was taking up way too much of his time and energy. He said, I need you to run it, or I need you to find somebody to run it. I can't do it anymore. The first thing I did was a really simple social media analysis. He was on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Facebook was growing slowly, Twitter was growing a little slower, and Google+ was practically stagnant. So I looked at the number of posts he was doing, I looked at the kind of engagement he was getting on those posts, and then I asked him, how much time are you spending on each of these platforms? Facebook, a fair amount of time. He had at least one post a day, and he was getting good engagement there. On Twitter, he was getting no time because he had it set up so when he posted on Facebook, it automatically went on to Twitter. And then what shocked me was that he was spending an exorbitant amount of time on Google+. He was an early adopter and had built up his circles and done really well. He loved Google+. But he was trying to do the same thing with his business, and it was just not happening. So his audience is actually primarily older women. The most active Google+ audience, most active Google+ users fall into the 16 to 34 range, with men outnumbering women by almost 12%. He had no idea that she was there. So I suggested that he alter his approach. He left his Google+ page up, but I told him, since not much was happening there anyway, just post there once or twice a week. Instead, he spent the time that he was using on Google+ and devoted it to beefing up his Facebook content, creating native Twitter content, and he even added Pinterest. And all of those are on their way up, growing organically. He's building a vibrant cross-platform community, and he has time and energy to spare. So he didn't need anyone to run the social media for him. He just needed somebody to show him how he could manage his time more wisely. So take a hard look at where you are spending the most time and where you're getting the best and worst return on investment. Is there a disconnect? Are you trying on a platform and it's just not working? You know, you've heard the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result every time. So don't be insane on social media. You have two options. You can change your approach or rethink your presence there. So if you're doing Periscope broadcasts to an audience of 3 people and they're all trolls, maybe you should try a different live streaming platform. Or if you're spending a lot of time staging just the right Instagram photo to showcase your product, getting the lighting just right, but your engagement, your comments and likes are disappointing, maybe you should spend your energy elsewhere. If you're spending hours a month filling your Twitter hopper and nobody's engaging with your content, same thing. Either try something different or spend less time there. Don't be afraid to redirect your focus on social media. Because stepping away from a platform for a while may prove you don't need it, or it may revive your commitment to it, give you new ideas and new ways to approach things. Once your time is prioritized a little more strategically, or if you're already there and you're in a good place, maybe you're thinking about hopping on to some of those shiny new platforms with your brand. When looking to expand your social footprint, poke around, see what kind of activity is already happening there. Do searches to see if conversations about your industry or you are happening in and around those spaces. It's okay to be a lurker. What conversations are already happening, see what people are doing there. It's okay to be an engager. Ask people what they enjoy seeing there. Ask people what they don't like seeing there. How can you augment any existing presence, and what can you do differently to stand out in a good way? So all of these things are part of a cycle that I believe we should be in at all times on social media. Explore, experiment, analyze, adjust. Exploring, you're seeing what's out there. What are the newest trends and apps? And on the existing, on the ones that you're on, what are the newest updates? How has this algorithm changed this week? Research what they are, how they work, and how you could use them. And then you analyze, you take a step back, look at what you created. Oh wait, no, first you experiment. Experiment, you dive in and try things. Put what you've learned into practice. See for yourself what works and what doesn't work. Then you analyze it. And you take a step back, you see what you've created, you see how it's performing. What's your ROI? What could you do better? How could you make it easier for yourself? And then you adjust. This may mean expanding or reducing your presence. But take what you've learned and apply it. Making adjustments so that your approach to improve your engagement and grow your community is a better one. Unfortunately, there is no magic social media solution to every brand's problems. Very unfortunately. So what works for her may not work for you or any of the rest of you, but it works for her, and that's good. So every brand, every account, and every community is unique in that way. I hope that by going back to the basics on some of this stuff, that a lot of this was really a review. But I hope that by going back to the basics and reviewing these things, that maybe if you're stuck in a rut, you'll be inspired to try something different and see what works for you. Find your own secret sauce. Hat tip, Madeline's bar. Because seriously, everyone in this room is a newsmaker, and everyone here has a story to tell that's worth hearing. What time is it?
We have 15 minutes.
A few more minutes, so throwing in one more quick thought before I open it up to questions. I've had a lot of numbers up this morning, and add this to the numbers you already have in your own heads with your own likes and shares and reach and impressions. I have a love love-hate relationship with numbers, and the stats and the vanity metrics. I love them because they fascinate me. I eat this stuff up. But I look at them all the time, and I feel like sometimes it takes me away from what really matters. We want it to be about numbers because it always has been. Our bosses and our clients want proof that what we're doing is working. Vanity metrics are important to track how you're growing, see what people actually like, but they can also, but as much as we'd like to believe that they are a reflection of our success as communicators, they're just not. My final message to you today then is, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's going to bring this up in our sessions today, is focus on quality of engagement over quantity, connecting with people rather than selling to them, talking with people, not just to them. It's about depth over breadth when it comes to relationships. This is how you build trust. This is how you build loyalty. And this is how you turn your clients and customers into your community, your advocates and ambassadors, and your friends on social media. That's all I got. This has been fun. Thank you.
Yay! Woo! Awesome.
Any questions? And this is me. You can scan my Snap code, add me on Snapchat, and Twitter and all that. Chris Valentine. There's both of my email addresses. And please join me on Chat Snap, the Twitter chat all about Snapchat, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? Yeah.
Did you say that when you were getting feedback about your foot, that you were able to combine those and repost them on Snapchat?
What I did, because I don't have a jailbroken phone like some people do,
Missouri.
I took their comments and I wrote them all out, and then was able to share them, just me sharing them, and I used their username. If I had a second screen, I was at the Canal House in Galveston, so I didn't. But if I had a second screen, I could have gotten a second screen to take a photo of their Snap code and share it afterward.
Or could you have used your Snapchat to record their snap of you and then re-share that?
If I had a second device, yes. Yeah.
But you can't be logged in on two devices at the same
Right.
time unless...
I would have, well, yeah, you're right. I would have to have them, and I've seen this done before, where people will have you send your input to another account, like their girlfriend's account or something like that. So if you send it to, like, let's say you run a business account and a personal account, have them send it to your personal account, and then you can report it from your business account. But what I did is just include the usernames and tell people, take a screenshot and add in my username when I'm not able to do a Snap code. Any questions?
Hi, I'm Sabrina Flaherty. You spoke on user-generated content, and I love user-generated content, but sometimes it's difficult for me to find ways to kind of push my audience to be inspired. So do you have suggestions or tips on how to get your audience to kind of push them to actually do that user-generated content?
I found that people are more likely to share if they're going to get direct recognition of sharing. So if you tell them, I will share, for example, on Snapchat, I will share your Snap code. Or if you tell them on Twitter, we will give you a shout out on Twitter. They're more likely to do that because they want that recognition. So you might try that. Yeah.
Less of a question, more of a comment. Your backpack is the coolest thing.
Right? My backpack is actually scannable, and I got this from my friends in the UK. They're called the Funky Fairy. The Funky Fairy on Twitter and Snapchat. I think they're on Instagram and Facebook too. Really cool. I get so many comments on that.
I have a question about Snapchat. So we're an agency and handle our clients' social media accounts, but we're really struggling with Snapchat on how we can actually handle that since we're actually at the client application. So how do you handle that? How do you recommend it? If you can't actually do social media, how we can promote our own Snapchat?
So you're wanting to promote what your clients are doing, but you're not with your clients.
Not
It's-
from
is it something that you can hand over?
Well, but they're not actually doing it when we ask them to do it, because they've hired an agency to take over their socials, you know?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
One of the really common challenges of Snapchat right now, because it's still fairly new. A lot of brands are really hesitant to use it. In the future, like we work with ExxonMobil, so I do stories out at ExxonMobil events, and
So you do on behalf of ExxonMobil when you're actually physically there?
Or on your
How
own.
often are you there, and does that help or decrease their engagement?
well, they don't have a Snapchat account, so it's me doing it on my personal account and then sharing it, and then usually they use it internally, but they'll share it out from, I upload it to YouTube and they'll share it out that way. But if that's me going to the client event and actually being there, I think ideally I'd love to be able to train somebody who's at ExxonMobil or at any other client and teach them how to do it. So you go in, train them, teach them how to do it, and then let them run it themselves. But that's the challenge with brands. It's just really hard to get them to adapt.
I think as the ad platforms start to roll out on Snapchat like they are, that's going to be your best bet for them. Because if your clients are like mine, getting them to post on Facebook is hard enough, much less to do stories on Snapchat. And the engagement with brands is a little quirky still, I think. A lot of us follow brands, but we don't necessarily always watch their stories. And so the influencer marketing piece of Snapchat's really big right now. So just pay Christy to snap for them.
Yes, ma'am.
I have kind of two questions. One is, I do marketing for Cherry Pie Hospitality. We have several restaurants around town. And so I do everything. I do marketing, PR, social media, events. I do it all. Me, all myself. So I do have all my, So I do have all my stuff connected because unfortunately it's just me. So like to Instagram, to Twitter, to Facebook. But I get no Twitter action, probably because it's all hooked up.
I'm sorry.
Well, I hook up, I do Instagram and then I do it to Twitter and Facebook all at the same
Right.
time. And that's probably why I'm getting no action on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I really need to tweet separately.
Yeah, and the native content is always going to be better on any of the platforms.
Do you use Sprout Social or Hootsuite or any of those? Or
I use TweetDeck
TweetDeck?
to schedule tweets. I also use Buffer some. That's what I use for Twitter.
Okay, and then my other question is on Snapchat, just because you do that a lot. I've got a new restaurant opening like in a month or so, and so all the bloggers come in and my media come in and they're all Snapchatting and not doing Instagram and whatever. So I'm like, it's hard to capture that and say, hey, we have a Snapchat, So I want to do a geo tag on it.
Geofilter?
Geofilter, sorry. And have you ever done that for a client for an event? And is it?
We've
How
done
do
them.
you
I
keep
haven't
track of
personally
it?
managed them, but they will give you the analytics on your Geofilter app.
They will. Okay, that's what I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I did all the research. I've got my designer making something, and So anyway, but I didn't know if they gave you analytics after.
They do.
So you kind of at least know.
And it's sometimes hard to get those geofilters approved because they want it to be as concise in an area as possible. There's a lot of rules on, you can use logos, but they have different rules on what you can use. You can't use hashtags, you can't use social media handles, so you get creative there. But geofilters are a great way to reach out. Yeah.
So I was wondering if you have like an elevator pitch, because I propose Snapchat to clients, but I feel like because it's one of the newer players in the social game, there's like this false perception that it's for the Kardashians. Like it's still a kids platform. It's something you experiment with, and it's not something that's replicable yet. So kind of what's your role for that? When you're trying to tell clients like, no, this is really valuable.
Right. Tell them that face-to-face conversation than any other network. And so it's a lot more of a personal connection, and people like that.
I think a good example too with that is the three of us.
Yeah, so, okay. This is my friend Chris McManamy, and he flew in from St. Louis for the event, and this is my friend Chad Ia Peterson, and he's here from Nederland. I met both of them on Snapchat. And so the connections I made more real friendships on Snapchat in a matter of months than I've made in 10 plus years combined on every other social network. Just the way that you communicate and interact with each other on Snapchat is just different, and it allows for those deeper connections. And so Chris flies in, Chad drives in with his wife Lainey, and we pick up conversations like we've been hanging out in person week after week for years. And so, just those connections are so much deeper on Snapchat than anywhere else. I don't think that I've never met anybody on Twitter or Instagram that I've done that with. It's just a different kind of environment. And thank y'all for coming.
But that's personal. What about for business?
For business,
Yeah, that's a challenge.
absolutely. Because again, that face-to-face connection, I think it's important that you open up your account, and so people can interact with you. They can chat. They can follow back so that they can chat you. You want to be accessible at all times, and just that accessibility on Snapchat, because they're using it already and they're doing that with their friends, and to be able to do that with a brand is really cool. Because so many don't have it opened up like that.
In a day, how many Snapchats do you upload and how many views do you have? Like in a day, how many Snapchats do you upload and how many viewers do you have?
That varies because it depends on how much time I have and also what's going on. Because sometimes I'm just sitting on the couch working. But when I do a full-out Snapchat story, it's usually about 2 minutes long, which they're not all 10-second snaps. I'm trying to make them shorter than that so that people aren't tapping through. But the number of snaps really varies. I try to keep it as short and concise as possible. I'm not going to say in 5 snaps what I can say in 2, kind of thing. As far as the number of views, but I think my peak personally has been around 550. With the way that everything is moving, now they have the autoplay feature, so you watch one story and the next one automatically starts, and then you can swipe if you want to skip that one. Sometimes people skip and that's sad. But if you have a higher number on your first snap, then you will on the rest. But you can still track your completion rate. That does change a little bit. You're going to have a higher number on the first one than the second one even. But
You started this March.
I'm sorry?
You started your Snapchat this March.
I started chat snap in March.
When did you start your Snapchat?
I got on Snapchat in October.
I have my son. It's been around for 5 years, Mom.
Yeah.
So many
I kept doing it because I thought that it was a kid's app and a sexting app, and I was like, I don't want to be part of that. Actually, Brian Fanzo is the one who convinced me to get on it, and he got on it because Gary Vee was talking about it. So, yeah, I'm glad I did. Because I made great friends. Is that it? Thank y'all so much.
Yay! That was awesome. Awesome
I know, right?
broadcast. Yeah, that
Give
was
it like 3 thumbs. I mean, that's 3 thumbs up.
3 thumbs up. Thanks everyone on Periscope. This will be in the Periscope rotation forever because you can't. They're not getting rid of the 24-hour limit anymore. So you can Periscope stay. Morgan's in here. Morgan, you know this guy. What?
She knows Lainey too.
Oh, Lainey, we're live on Periscope. See you guys later.